My sibling reported my car stolen. I was driving it to my graduation. The red and blue lights were blinding in my rearview mirror, and my heart completely stopped when I saw not one, but 3 police cruisers pulling me over just 2 blocks from campus. It was 11:47 a.m. on Saturday, May 18th, exactly 73 minutes before I was supposed to walk across that stage and receive my diploma. For years of sleepless nights, countless essays, and student loan debt that would follow me to my grave, and now this. I pulled over on Elm Street, hands shaking as I rolled down the window of my mom's silver Honda Accord. The same car I'd driven home for Christmas breaks, the same car I'd borrowed dozens of times with my parents' blessing, the same car that was apparently now stolen, according to the officer approaching my driver's side window. "Step out of the vehicle with your hands visible," Officer Martinez said, his hand resting on his holster. My graduation cap slid off my head as I complied, landing in the gutter next to a discarded Starbucks cup. "There's been a mistake," I stammered, watching more cops emerge from their vehicles. "This is my family's car. I'm Sarah Chen, and I'm driving to my graduation ceremony at." "Ma'am, we received a report that this vehicle was stolen from the registered owner's residence at 847 Maple Drive in Riverside." He was all business, no sympathy in his voice despite my obvious graduation regalia. The caller was very specific about the circumstances. My stomach dropped to my feet. 847 Maple Drive. That was my childhood home. Someone from my own family had called the police on me. Can I ask who reported it? I already knew the answer, but I needed to hear it. Officer Martinez consulted his notepad. A Marcus Chen called it in about an hour ago. Said his sister had taken the vehicle without permission and that the family was concerned about theft. Marcus. My little brother who wasn't so little anymore at 19. Marcus, who had been increasingly bitter about me being the golden child ever since I got into State University 4 years ago. Marcus, who had made snide comments all week about how, of course, everyone's making such a big deal about Sarah's graduation while he was struggling through community college. But this was beyond sibling rivalry. This was pure sabotage. "That's my brother," I said, fighting back tears of rage and disbelief. "And he lied to you. My parents explicitly told me to take the car today. They're already at the graduation venue saving seats for the whole family." The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents, aunt, uncle, and both sets of grandparents were probably sitting in the campus auditorium right now, checking their watches and wondering where I was. The same family that was supposed to be celebrating my achievement was instead scattered between a graduation ceremony and a police station because Marcus couldn't stand me having one day that was entirely about my accomplishments. Officer Martinez studied my face, then looked at my graduation gown. "We're going to need to verify your story, Miss Chen. Can you provide contact information for your parents?" As I fumbled for my phone to call my dad, my mind was already racing ahead to what would happen after this mess got sorted out. Because it would get sorted out, the truth always comes out eventually. The question was what I was going to do about Marcus when it did. Graduation was supposed to be the beginning of my new chapter. I just hadn't expected it to start with my own brother trying to ruin the most important day of my life. The call to my dad went straight to voicemail. Of course it did. He always turned his phone to silent during important events, and my graduation definitely qualified. I tried my mom next, same result. Meanwhile, more curious onlookers were gathering on the sidewalk, phones out, probably posting my humiliation to social media in real time. "My parents aren't answering," I told Officer Martinez, my voice cracking. "The ceremony starts in an hour and they always silence their phones. But I can give you their numbers, our address, anything you need to verify. We're going to need you to come to the station while we sort this out," he said, and my world tilted sideways. "No, please, you don't understand. I can't miss my graduation. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from a 4-year university. My grandmother flew in from Taiwan for this. She's 86 years old and saved up for months to be here." Officer Martinez's expression softened slightly, but his partner, Officer Davies, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we have to follow protocol. A family member reported this vehicle stolen. Until we can confirm otherwise." "Wait," I interrupted, a desperate idea forming. "Can you call my brother back? Ask him to clarify exactly when he thinks I took the car. Because I guarantee his story won't match the facts." Officer Martinez raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? Marcus told you I took the car without permission, right? But I've been in my dorm all morning getting ready. I didn't even pick up the car until 10:30 a.m. from the campus visitor parking lot. My mom dropped it off there last night specifically so I could drive to graduation today. There are security cameras that will prove it." I pulled out my phone and showed them my text history with my mom from the night before. "Look, cars in visitor lot space B47, keys under front mat like we discussed. So proud of you, sweetie, see you tomorrow. Dad's making his famous pancakes for the celebration dinner." The timestamp read 9:23 p.m., May 17th. Officer Davies examined my phone screen. "When did your brother call this in exactly?" Officer Martinez checked his notes. Call came in at 10:52 a.m. He claimed the car had been missing since early morning and that his parents were out searching for it. "That's impossible," I said, feeling a surge of vindication mixed with fury. If my parents were out searching for their missing car, why would my mom have texted me at 8:15 this morning asking if I was nervous about my speech? I scrolled to show them, "Remember to speak slowly and smile. We're all so excited to watch you walk across that stage. Love you." The two officers exchanged glances. Officer Davies spoke into his radio. "Dispatch, can you patch me through to the original caller on the Chen vehicle report? We need clarification on some timeline discrepancies." While we waited, I watched the minutes tick by on my phone. 12:03 p.m. The ceremony started at 1 p.m. sharp, and graduates were supposed to line up by 12:30. Even if this got resolved right now, I'd be cutting it impossibly close. But the worst part wasn't the time pressure. It was the growing realization of how calculated Marcus's sabotage really was. He timed his false report perfectly, late enough that I'd already be en route, but early enough that the police response would make me miss graduation entirely. He'd probably been watching the clock all morning, waiting for the exact moment that would cause maximum damage. This wasn't a spontaneous act of jealousy. This was premeditated destruction of the most important day of my life. And now I had to decide, was I going to let him get away with it? The radio crackled to life, and I could hear Marcus's voice through the static. My stomach clenched as Officer Davies asked him to repeat his timeline. Yeah, like I said, the car's been gone since around 7 a.m., Marcus said, his voice steady and convincing. My parents left early to set up decorations at some restaurant for my sister's graduation party, and when they got back around 10, they realized the Honda was missing from the driveway. I felt my face flush with anger. He was doubling down on his lies, even making up details about decoration setup that never happened. But then Officer Davies asked the question that made my heart race with hope. Sir, can you confirm your parents' current location? We'd like to speak with them directly. There was a pause. A long pause. They're still out looking for the car. Driving around the neighborhood. And their cell phones. Dead batteries, I think. That's why they asked me to call it in. Officer Martinez was typing notes on his phone, and I could see his expression growing skeptical. Mr. Chen, we have text message evidence showing communication between your parents and your sister as recently as 8:15 this morning. Can you explain that discrepancy? The pause was even longer this time. When Marcus finally spoke, I could hear the panic creeping into his voice. Look, maybe I got the times mixed up. It's been a really stressful morning, okay? The important thing is that Sarah took the car without asking. Actually, sir, we also have evidence suggesting the vehicle was left for your sister to use, with explicit permission from your mother. I heard Marcus's sharp intake of breath through the radio. That's not, she must have faked those texts somehow. Officer Davies looked at me with raised eyebrows. I pulled up my mom's contact info and showed him the message thread going back months. There was no way to fake that kind of history. Mr. Chen, filing a false police report is a misdemeanor offense in this state, Officer Martinez said into his radio. We're going to need you to come down to the station to clarify your statement. Wait, no, I don't need to. The radio went dead. Marcus had hung up. Officer Davies shook his head. Well, Miss Chen, it appears your brother just made this situation a lot worse for himself. Relief flooded through me, but it was mixed with a sick feeling in my stomach. Marcus had just committed an actual crime to try to ruin my graduation. This wasn't just sibling rivalry anymore, this was something that could go on his record, affect his future, potentially get him kicked out of community college. Officers, I appreciate you figuring this out, but I really need to get to my graduation, I said, glancing at my phone. 12:14 p.m. Can I please take the car now? Absolutely, Officer Martinez said. And Miss Chen. Congratulations on your graduation. I'm sorry your morning got derailed like this. As the police cars pulled away, I sat in the Honda for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My hands were still shaking, but now it was from adrenaline and rage rather than fear. Marcus hadn't just tried to make me miss graduation, he'd been willing to lie to the police and ultimately commit a crime just to sabotage me. The worst part was realizing how much planning this had taken. He'd known about my parents' permission to use the car. He'd known the exact timing of when I'd be driving to campus. He'd crafted an elaborate story about my parents being unreachable, probably hoping the police wouldn't be able to verify anything until after 1 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from my roommate Jessica. Girl, where are you? Lineup starts in 15 minutes and Professor Williams is asking about your speech. That's when it hit me, I was giving the student speaker address today. It wasn't just my own graduation I was about to miss, I was supposed to represent my entire class. Marcus had tried to sabotage 847 other students, not just me. Now I wasn't just angry. I was furious. I floored the Honda and raced toward campus, my graduation gown billowing around me as I ran red lights I'd never dream of running under normal circumstances. 12:18 p.m. 12 minutes to get there, find parking, and somehow locate the staging area where 847 other graduates were probably wondering where their student speaker had disappeared to. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Jessica again, Sarah seriously where are you? The dean is freaking out. Then my academic advisor Dr. Peterson, Sarah, we need you here immediately. Call me back. But it was the text from my mom at 12:21 that made my blood run cold. Honey, Marcus just called crying saying he made a terrible mistake and the police want to talk to him. What's going on? We can't leave the ceremony to deal with this. Are you okay? So now he was playing the victim. Of course he was. Poor Marcus, who made a mistake by filing a false police report and nearly destroying his sister's graduation day. I could picture him perfectly, tears streaming down his face, telling my parents some sob story about how he was just worried about the car, how it was all a misunderstanding, how he never meant for things to go this far. I screeched into the faculty parking lot, the closest spot I could find, and sprinted toward the humanities building in my heels and cap and gown. Students in matching regalia were streaming toward the auditorium, and I could hear the processional music starting in the distance. Sarah. Jessica's voice cut through the crowd. She was standing by the side entrance, looking frantic in her gold honor cords. Thank God. What happened? You look like you've been through hell. My brother happened, I panted, trying to catch my breath. He called the police and reported my car stolen. I've been dealing with cops for the past hour. Jessica's jaw dropped. He what? Today. Right before graduation. Gets better, I said, straightening my cap. He lied to the police multiple times and then hung up on them when they caught him in his lies. Pretty sure he just committed a felony to try to make me miss this. That's. Jessica shook her head in disbelief. Sarah, that's insane. Even for sibling rivalry, that's completely psychotic. Dr. Peterson appeared at my elbow, looking harried. Miss Chen. Thank goodness you're here. The processional already started, but we held your place. What on earth? Family emergency, I said quickly. I'm ready to give my speech. Are you sure? You look quite shaken. I was shaken. My carefully curled hair was a mess, my makeup was smudged from stress tears, and my hands were still trembling from the adrenaline crash. But I'd worked 4 years for this moment, and I'd be damned if Marcus was going to take it away from me. I'm sure, I said. Let's do this. As we hurried toward the staging area, my mind was racing ahead to what would happen after the ceremony. My whole extended family was here, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins who'd driven hours to celebrate with me. We were all supposed to go to dinner at Giuseppe's afterward, the big celebration my parents had planned for weeks. Marcus would be there too, probably having convinced my parents that his mistake was just a moment of poor judgment, that he felt terrible about it, that we should all just move on and focus on celebrating. But I had screenshots of my conversation with the police. I had timestamps. I had evidence of exactly how calculated and malicious his sabotage had been. The question was, did I drop this bomb at the family dinner in front of everyone, or did I handle it privately? As I took my place in the graduation lineup, listening to pomp and circumstance echoing through the auditorium, I realized I already knew the answer. Marcus had made this public when he involved the police. He'd made it criminal when he lied to officers. He'd made it unforgivable when he tried to destroy not just my day, but the day of every graduate counting on me to speak for them. If he wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. The processional felt like it lasted forever. Step, pause, following the graduate in front of me while my mind churned with everything that had just happened. I could see my family in the third row, Mom dabbing her eyes with tissues, Dad recording everything on his phone, Grandma Papa in her best dress that she'd probably been planning to wear for months. And there, at the end of the row, was Marcus. He looked smaller than usual, hunched in his seat with his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Even from a distance, I could see the red around his eyes. He'd been crying, just like Mom's text had said. Good. He should be crying. But what made my stomach twist was seeing how my parents kept glancing at him with concerned, sympathetic looks. Mom even reached over at one point to squeeze his shoulder. They had no idea what he'd really done, they probably thought this was all some innocent misunderstanding that had spiraled out of control. When Dean Morrison introduced me as the student speaker, the applause felt surreal. I walked to the podium on unsteady legs, looking out at 847 graduates and their families, and for a moment I completely forgot the speech I'd practiced dozens of times. Thank you, I began, my voice echoing through the sound system. 4 years ago, we arrived on this campus as strangers, unsure of who we'd become. The words came automatically while my mind stayed split between the present moment and what I'd say to my family in 3 hours. I talked about perseverance through challenges, about the support systems that carried us through difficult times, about how our achievements belonged not just to us but to everyone who believed in us. The irony of talking about family support while looking directly at Marcus wasn't lost on me. Because the people who truly love us want to see us succeed, even when that success might outshine their own moments. I saw Marcus shift uncomfortably in his seat. He knew. He absolutely knew that I knew. But it was what happened during the diploma presentation that changed everything. As I walked across the stage to receive my degree, Dean Morrison shook my hand and leaned in close. Miss Chen, I received an interesting phone call during your speech. Detective Rivera from the downtown precinct wants to speak with you after the ceremony. Something about pressing charges related to the incident this morning. My heart stopped. Pressing charges. Apparently your brother's false report triggered an automatic investigation. Filing a false police report is taken very seriously, especially when it involves family vehicles and could be construed as harassment. He handed me my diploma with a grave expression. The detective said it's your choice whether to pursue it, but they've already documented everything. I walked off the stage in a daze. Pressing charges. Against my own brother. This had escalated so far beyond what I'd imagined when I was sitting in that police car an hour ago. The rest of the ceremony blurred together. Name after name called, applause, the final recessional. All I could think about was Marcus potentially having a criminal record because he couldn't handle me having one good day. As soon as we were dismissed, Jessica grabbed my arm. You look like you're going to pass out. What's wrong? The police want to know if I'm pressing charges against Marcus, I whispered. This isn't just family drama anymore, Jess. This could destroy his future. Sarah, she said firmly, he tried to destroy yours first. On your graduation day. With lies to the police. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom, so proud of you sweetheart. Beautiful speech. See you at Giuseppe's at 4:30. Marcus explained everything and feels terrible. Let's just focus on celebrating you today. Red heart. Marcus explained everything. I bet he did. Probably painted himself as the victim who panicked and made an innocent mistake. But Detective Rivera was waiting for my call. And my entire extended family was about to gather for a celebration dinner where Marcus would sit there accepting forgiveness for something they didn't even understand the true scope of. I had 30 minutes before I had to be at Giuseppe's to make the most important decision of my life, let my brother get away with trying to sabotage my graduation, or destroy his future the way he tried to destroy mine. I sat in my car outside Giuseppe's for 15 minutes, staring at my phone. Detective Rivera's number was already entered, all I had to do was hit call. Through the restaurant's windows, I could see my family gathering around the long table my parents had reserved weeks ago. Uncle David was showing Grandma Papa something on his phone, probably photos from the ceremony. My little cousin Emma was coloring on the paper tablecloth with the crayons Giuseppe's always provided for kids. And there was Marcus, sitting between my parents, gesturing animatedly as he talked. Even from the parking lot, I could read his body language, the hunched shoulders of someone seeking comfort, the way he kept touching his face like he was wiping away tears. My parents were nodding sympathetically, Mom's hand rubbing his back in that way she used to when he had nightmares as a kid. He was performing. And they were buying every second of it. My phone rang, making me jump. Jessica's name on the screen. Are you coming in? I'm at the bar waiting for you, and your aunt just asked me 3 times where you are. Jess, I need you to do something for me, I said. Can you record what Marcus says when people ask him about this morning? Just, keep your phone handy. Sarah, what are you planning? I don't know yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I hung up and finally walked into Giuseppe's. The smell of garlic bread and marinara sauce hit me immediately, along with the sound of my family's laughter echoing from the back corner. This restaurant had been our go-to celebration spot for years, Marcus's high school graduation, my parents' anniversary, Grandpa's retirement party. The walls were covered with photos of happy families marking their milestones. There she is. Dad's voice boomed across the restaurant. Our college graduate. The whole table erupted in applause as I approached. Grandma Papa struggled to her feet to hug me, her tiny arms surprisingly strong as she whispered in my ear, "So proud, precious girl. Your grandfather would have been so proud too." I hugged each family member, accepting their congratulations, but my eyes kept drifting to Marcus. He was watching me carefully, trying to gauge my mood. When I finally sat down across from him, he attempted a weak smile. "Hey Sarah. Great speech today. Really moving." "Thanks," I said flatly. "I heard you had an eventful morning too." His face went pale, but before he could respond, Mom jumped in. "Oh honey," Marcus explained everything. He was just worried about the car when he couldn't reach us, and he panicked and called the police. It was all a misunderstanding, but he feels absolutely terrible about the timing. "A misunderstanding," I repeated slowly. "Is that what we're calling it?" Uncle David leaned forward, wine glass in hand. "Kids, your mom told us there was some confusion this morning, but everything worked out fine. Marcus, don't beat yourself up about it. These things happen." I watched Marcus's relief flood across his face as the family rallied around him. Aunt Linda chimed in about how she once accidentally reported her own car stolen when she forgot she'd lent it to a coworker. Cousin Jake laughed about the time he called the cops on his roommate for stealing a jacket that was actually borrowed. They were normalizing it, making it into a funny family story instead of what it actually was. "Actually," I said, my voice cutting through the chatter, "I'm curious about something, Marcus. What time did you say you called the police?" The table went quiet. Marcus shifted in his seat. I don't remember exactly. Maybe around 11. 11, I nodded. "And you told them the car had been missing since 7 a.m., right? Because Mom and Dad were out setting up decorations at some restaurant." "Sarah," Mom said with a warning tone, "let's not relitigate this. It's your day." But I was already pulling out my phone. "That's interesting, because I have the police report right here. You actually told Officer Martinez that the car had been missing since early morning, and that Mom and Dad were out searching for it with dead cell phone batteries." Marcus's face went white. I was confused. It was stressful. Confused about what, exactly? About the text Mom sent me at 8:15 a.m. asking if I was nervous about my speech? Or confused about the fact that she dropped the car off for me the night before, exactly like we planned? The silence at the table was deafening. I pulled up my text thread with Mom and handed my phone to Grandma Papa, who was sitting closest to me. "Grandma, can you read what Mom texted me last night at 9:23 p.m.? Grandma Papa squinted at the screen, then read aloud in her careful English, "Cars in visitor lot space B47, keys under front mat like we discussed. So proud of you sweetie, see you tomorrow. Dad's making his famous pancakes for the celebration dinner." The color drained from Mom's face. Dad set down his wine glass with a sharp clink. "And then this morning at 8:15, I continued, taking the phone back, Mom texted asking if I was nervous about my speech. But according to Marcus, by that time you two were already out desperately searching for your missing car with dead phones." Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. Uncle David was staring at him with a frown. Aunt Linda had stopped mid-sip of her wine. "Sarah, what exactly are you saying?" Dad's voice was carefully controlled, the way it got when he was trying not to lose his temper in public. "I'm saying Marcus lied to the police. Multiple times. He knew perfectly well that I had permission to use the car. He called in a false report at exactly 10:52 a.m., timed perfectly so I'd get pulled over en route to graduation but wouldn't have time to sort it out before the ceremony started." "That's not," Marcus started, but his voice cracked. "I just panicked when I saw the car wasn't there and couldn't reach you guys." "Marcus," I said, my voice deadly calm, "the car wasn't supposed to be there. You knew that. You helped Mom carry my garment bag out to the Honda Thursday night when she decided to drop it off early so I wouldn't have to worry about logistics on graduation morning." Jessica, who had been silently recording on her phone like I'd asked, gave me a subtle nod. She'd caught his reaction. The table was silent except for the clinking of glasses and conversation from other families celebrating around us. Emma had stopped coloring and was staring at us with wide 6-year-old eyes, sensing the adult tension. Furthermore, I continued, reaching into my purse, "I have the incident report number right here." The police documented everything, including the part where Marcus hung up on them when they started asking questions about his timeline inconsistencies. Grandma Papa's face had hardened in a way I'd never seen before. She'd survived the Cultural Revolution, raised 4 children while working 2 jobs, and had exactly zero tolerance for dishonesty. "Marcus," she said quietly, "you lied to police. On your sister's graduation day." "It wasn't like that, Papa, I swear." "Then what was it like?" Dad's voice was sharp now. "Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you deliberately tried to sabotage your sister's graduation." "I didn't think they'd actually arrest her or anything," Marcus blurted out, then immediately realized what he'd just admitted. The silence that followed was thunderous. Uncle David actually gasped. Aunt Linda set her wine glass down so hard the stem nearly snapped. "You didn't think they'd arrest her," Mom repeated slowly, "for driving a stolen car." "I just thought maybe she'd be late, or miss the lineup, or," Marcus was spiraling now, tears starting to flow. "Everyone's always making such a big deal about Sarah's achievements, and nobody ever notices what I'm doing, and I just wanted. You wanted to ruin your sister's college graduation," Grandma Papa said, her voice carrying the full weight of her disappointment, "because you were jealous." "Papa, that's not enough." Dad's voice cut through the restaurant noise. Several nearby tables turned to look at us. "Marcus, we are leaving. Now. You and I are going to have a very long conversation at home." But I wasn't done. "Not yet. Actually, Dad, there's one more thing you should know before we leave." I pulled out my phone again. Detective Rivera called me after the ceremony. Filing a false police report is a Class A misdemeanor in this state. They want to know if I'm pressing charges. The word charges hit the table like a bomb. Marcus went completely white. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Even Emma stopped coloring completely. "Charges?" Aunt Linda whispered. "Criminal charges," I clarified. "Which would mean a permanent record. Potential jail time." Definitely getting kicked out of community college. I looked directly at Marcus. All because you couldn't stand me having one day that was about me. Marcus was hyperventilating now, his chest rising and falling in sharp bursts. Sarah, please, I'm sorry, I never meant. You never meant what, Marcus? I leaned forward, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through me. You never meant for me to get pulled over by 3 squad cars. You never meant for me to miss giving the student speaker address. Or you never meant to get caught. I think I'm going to be sick, he whispered, pressing his hands to his stomach. Cousin Jake, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke up. Wait, Sarah was the student speaker. Marcus, dude, you tried to sabotage the student speaker on graduation day. That's not just about Sarah, that's about her entire graduating class. 847 students, I said quietly. All counting on me to represent them, and I almost wasn't there because my own brother decided to commit a felony. It's not a felony. Marcus protested desperately. You said misdemeanor. The false report is a misdemeanor, I corrected. But Detective Rivera mentioned something interesting about harassment charges when it involves family members and deliberate attempts to interfere with major life events. Apparently there's precedent for escalating charges when there's clear malicious intent. This was a slight exaggeration. Detective Rivera had mentioned harassment as a possibility, not a certainty, but watching Marcus's face crumple felt oddly satisfying. Dad was staring at Marcus like he'd never seen him before. How long have you been planning this? I wasn't planning anything. It was spur of the moment. Bullshit. The profanity coming from my usually mild-mannered father made everyone at the table flinch. You knew exactly when Sarah would be driving to campus. You knew we'd have our phones silenced during the ceremony. You crafted an elaborate story about us searching for the car. That takes planning, Marcus. Mom had gone completely silent, just staring at her youngest child with tears streaming down her cheeks. Finally, she spoke. Marcus, look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Did you plan this to hurt your sister? The question hung in the air for what felt like forever. Around us, Giuseppe's continued its normal Saturday afternoon bustle, families celebrating, servers carrying trays of pasta, the espresso machine hissing behind the bar. But at our table, everything had stopped. Marcus looked at Mom, then at me, then down at his hands. When he finally answered, his voice was barely audible. I just wanted her to know how it feels. How what feels? Grandma Papa asked sharply. To have something important ruined by someone you're supposed to trust. His voice was getting stronger now, like finally telling the truth was giving him confidence. Do you know what it's like being Sarah's brother? Perfect Sarah who got into the fancy university while I'm stuck at community college. Sarah who gets the scholarship money while I have to work at Target to pay for my classes. Sarah who everyone's always praising while I'm just there. Uncle David set his fork down with deliberate precision. So you decided to ruin her graduation day. The culmination of 4 years of her hard work. She gets everything handed to her. I worked 3 jobs to pay for college. I exploded, finally losing my composure. I lived on ramen noodles for 2 years. I studied while you were out partying with your friends. Nothing was handed to me, Marcus. Nothing. But you're smart, he said, tears flowing freely now. You've always been the smart one, the successful one. I'm just the screw-up little brother who can barely pass remedial algebra. So instead of working harder, you decided to drag me down to your level. The words came out harsher than I intended, and I immediately saw them hit Marcus like a physical blow. But I was too angry to take them back. Jessica, who had been recording this entire exchange, finally spoke up. Marcus, my brother's a doctor and I'm a social worker. You know what I did when he graduated medical school? I threw him a party. Because that's what family does. The comparison seemed to break something in Marcus. He buried his face in his hands and started sobbing, not the manipulative tears from earlier, but raw, broken crying that made other diners turn to stare at our table. And for the first time all day, I felt a flicker of doubt about what I was planning to do next. The silence that followed Marcus's breakdown was broken by our server, Tony, awkwardly approaching with a tray of our appetizers. He took one look at our tear-streaked faces and Marcus hunched over the table sobbing, and quickly retreated without a word. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from Detective Rivera. Miss Chen, I need your decision on whether to pursue charges by 5 p.m. today. The district attorney's office wants to move forward with or without your cooperation, but your statement would strengthen the case significantly. Please call me back. My stomach dropped. I thought this was my choice to make, but apparently the wheels of justice were already turning with or without me. What's wrong now? Dad asked, noticing my expression. I read the text aloud, watching Marcus's shoulders shake harder with each word. When I finished, Mom let out a shaky breath. They'll prosecute anyway, she asked. Sounds like it. Detective Rivera said filing false reports wastes department resources and sets a dangerous precedent. They apparently take it very seriously when people lie to manipulate police response times. Uncle David was scrolling through something on his phone. Jesus, Sarah, I'm looking this up. Class A misdemeanor in this state carries up to a year in jail and a $2,500 fine. Plus it goes on his permanent record. A year? Aunt Linda gasped. For a phone call. For lying to police officers and filing a false report with malicious intent, I corrected. This isn't some innocent mistake, Aunt Linda. Marcus calculated exactly when to call to cause maximum damage. He doubled down on his lies when questioned. He only started crying when he got caught. Marcus finally lifted his head, his face blotchy and swollen. Sarah, please. I know I screwed up, but I can't go to jail. I'll get kicked out of school. I'll never get into a real university. My whole future. You should have thought about your future before you tried to destroy mine. Grandma Papa reached across the table and grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Sarah, dear one, what are you going to do? That was the million-dollar question. An hour ago, I'd been ready to burn Marcus down in front of the whole family. I'd wanted him to face consequences, to understand that actions have repercussions, to learn that he couldn't just manipulate his way out of everything. But sitting here watching him fall apart, seeing the genuine terror in his eyes when Uncle David read those potential penalties out loud, I was starting to realize how nuclear this could get. I don't know, Papa. Sarah, Mom said quietly, I'm not asking you to forget what Marcus did. What he did was unforgivable. But he's still your brother. He didn't act like my brother when he was lying to police officers this morning. Marcus suddenly straightened up, wiping his nose on his napkin. What if I made it up to you? What if I paid for the therapy you'll probably need after today, or replaced your graduation photos since I ruined the original timing, or... Marcus, stop. Dad's voice was sharp. You can't fix this with money. You committed a crime. You traumatized your sister on the most important day of her life. You lied to our entire family for hours. But if Sarah doesn't press charges... The state might press charges anyway, Jessica interjected, still holding her phone. That's what the detective's text said. My phone rang. Detective Rivera's name on the screen. Miss Chen. I apologize for the urgency, but I need to inform you of a development. Your brother just called our station asking to speak with the officers from this morning. He's requesting to come in and clarify his statement. Do you know anything about this? I looked at Marcus, who was staring at me with desperate eyes. No, detective. This is the first I'm hearing about it. Well, he's scheduled to come in at 6 p.m. tonight. I still need your decision about cooperation with prosecution, but I wanted you to know he's apparently planning to revise his story. After I hung up, the table stared at Marcus. He fidgeted under the attention before finally speaking. I called them during Sarah's speech. I was going to tell them it was all a mistake, that I was wrong about the timing. You were going to lie again. Mom's voice was incredulous. I was going to tell the truth. Then I panicked and got confused and... Marcus, I said slowly, what exactly were you planning to tell them at 6 p.m.? His hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I was going to tell them that I misremembered everything, Marcus said quietly, not meeting anyone's eyes. That I got the timeline confused because I was stressed about Sarah graduating and leaving for her new job in Portland. My blood ran cold. What new job in Portland? The one at Morrison and Associates. The marketing firm that offered you that position 3 weeks ago. The table went silent. I felt everyone's eyes on me, and my stomach started churning for an entirely new reason. Sarah. Dad's voice was careful. What job is he talking about? I hadn't told anyone about Portland yet. The offer had come during finals week, and I'd been putting off the conversation because I knew it would complicate family dynamics even more. It was an incredible opportunity, junior marketing associate at a prestigious firm, starting salary of $58,000, full benefits, everything I'd dreamed of. But it also meant moving 8 hours away from home. How do you know about that? I asked Marcus, my voice barely above a whisper. Your laptop was open when I came by your dorm last week to borrow that textbook. The email was right there on your screen. He wiped his nose again. I wasn't snooping, it was just, there. Jessica was staring at me. Sarah, you got a job offer and didn't tell me? I was going to tell everyone after graduation. I haven't even decided if I'm taking it yet. But even as I said it, I knew I was lying. I'd already mentally accepted the position. I'd been researching Portland neighborhoods and apartment listings between finals. The only reason I hadn't officially said yes was because I was dreading this exact conversation. You're leaving. Grandma Papa's voice was small, hurt. It's just a possibility, Papa. I haven't made any final decisions. Marcus let out a bitter laugh. Right. That's why you already asked your landlord about breaking your lease here. That's why you've been researching Portland gyms and grocery stores. I saw your browser history when I borrowed your laptop. You went through my browser history. The violation felt almost worse than the morning's police incident. I wasn't trying to spy. The computer was slow, so I checked what tabs you had open, and there were like 15 Portland apartment websites. Mom was looking at me with this expression I'd never seen before, part hurt, part disappointment, part something that might have been betrayal. Sarah, were you planning to tell us? Or were you just going to announce after graduation that you were moving across the country? I was going to discuss it with everyone. As a family. After today. Discuss it or inform us. Dad's tone was sharper than I'd expected. Uncle David was shaking his head. So Marcus knew about Sarah's job plans, but her parents didn't. The dynamics at the table had shifted completely. Suddenly I was the one being scrutinized, and Marcus was no longer the sole target of family disappointment. This doesn't change what he did this morning, I said defensively. Even if he was upset about Portland, that doesn't justify filing a false police report. But it explains it, Aunt Linda said quietly. Marcus, is that why you were so angry today? Because you found out Sarah was leaving? Marcus nodded miserably. I kept thinking about how she gets this amazing opportunity while I'm stuck here failing community college classes. And then she wasn't even going to tell us until after she'd already decided. Like we don't matter enough to be part of the decision. That's not fair, I protested. I was trying to figure out the right way to bring it up. By researching apartments behind our backs. The accusation came from Mom, and it hit harder than anything Marcus had said all day. I was exploring options. That's what responsible adults do before making major life decisions. Responsible adults also communicate with their families, Dad said. Especially when those decisions affect everyone. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Detective Rivera. Miss Chen, your brother just called again asking to postpone his 6 p.m. appointment until tomorrow. He claims he needs time to discuss the situation with family. I'm getting the impression there's more to this story than either of you initially indicated. I need to speak with you both, separately, by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. I showed the text to the table, watching Marcus's face go white again. He knows, Marcus whispered. The detective knows something's not right. Jessica leaned forward. What exactly did you tell him when you called, Marcus? I just said I wanted to correct my statement because I'd been emotionally compromised when my sister told me she was moving away. The manipulation was breathtaking. Even in his attempt to come clean, Marcus was crafting a narrative that painted him as the victim, the heartbroken little brother who'd acted out because his sister was abandoning the family. And the worst part was, looking around the table at my family's faces, I could see it was working. That's not what happened, I said, my voice cutting through the sympathetic looks Marcus was getting. You didn't find out about Portland this morning, Marcus. You've known for a week. And you didn't file that police report because you were heartbroken, you filed it because you wanted to ruin my graduation day. Marcus opened his mouth to protest, but I wasn't finished. In fact, let me tell you exactly what happened this morning, since you seem to be revising history for Detective Rivera. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. At 10:52 a.m., you called police dispatch and reported our family car stolen. You specifically told them it had been missing since 7 a.m., and that Mom and Dad were out searching for it with dead phone batteries. When Officer Martinez asked for clarification, you doubled down and invented a story about them setting up decorations at some restaurant. Uncle David was watching Marcus carefully. Is that accurate? I was upset. That's not what I asked. Did you tell the police our parents were searching for the car with dead phones? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Then, I continued, when the officers showed you text message evidence that contradicted your timeline, you claimed I must have faked the messages somehow. And when they informed you that filing false reports is a crime, you hung up on them. Cousin Jake whistled low. Dude, you hung up on cops. I panicked. You panicked, or you realized your story was falling apart. I leaned forward. Because here's what I think really happened, Marcus. You've been stewing about Portland for a week, watching me get ready for graduation, and you decided you couldn't stand seeing me succeed when you felt like you were failing. So you calculated exactly when I'd be driving to campus and called in a report time to make me miss the ceremony entirely. Sarah, that's enough, Mom said sharply. We get it. Marcus made a terrible mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I exploded, finally losing the composure I'd been clinging to. Mistakes are accidental. This was deliberate sabotage. And now he's calling Detective Rivera trying to spin some sob story about being an abandoned little brother when the truth is he committed a crime because he was jealous. My phone rang again. I glanced at the screen, Detective Rivera calling back. Miss Chen, I apologize for the multiple contacts, but your brother's behavior is raising red flags. In my experience, innocent people don't keep calling to change their stories. I need to ask you directly, do you believe your brother filed this report with malicious intent? The entire table could hear Detective Rivera's voice through the phone. Marcus looked like he might vomit. Yes, I said clearly. I believe he knew exactly what he was doing and timed it deliberately to interfere with my graduation. And do you wish to cooperate with prosecution? This was it. The moment that would define my relationship with my brother, and probably my entire family, for years to come. I looked around the table at their expectant faces. Mom's eyes pleading with me to show mercy. Dad's expression unreadable. Grandma Papa watching me with that steady gaze that seemed to see everything. And Marcus, tears streaming down his face, waiting to learn if his sister was about to destroy his future the way he tried to destroy her day. Detective Rivera, I said slowly, I need until tomorrow morning to decide. After I hung up with Detective Rivera, the silence at our table stretched until it became unbearable. Giuseppe's bustled around us, families laughing, servers carrying steaming plates of pasta, children chattering excitedly, but our corner felt frozen in time. Tomorrow morning, Dad repeated slowly. That's not much time to make a decision that could change your brother's entire future. It's more time than Marcus gave me when he decided to ruin my graduation day, I shot back, immediately regretting how petty that sounded. Emma, my 6-year-old cousin who'd been coloring silently through this entire disaster, suddenly piped up, why is everyone so mad? Can't we just eat the breadsticks? Her innocent question broke something in the tension. Aunt Linda let out a shaky laugh, Uncle David reached for the basket of bread, and for a moment we almost looked like a normal family again. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah, this is Detective Rivera. I wanted to give you additional context for your decision. Your brother's case isn't happening in isolation. We've had 3 similar incidents in the past month, family members filing false reports to interfere with graduations, job interviews, and other milestone events. The DA's office is treating this as part of a disturbing trend and wants to send a message. Your cooperation would help, but prosecution will likely proceed regardless. The pattern suggests this type of sabotage is becoming more common, particularly among young adults struggling with social media comparison culture. I read the text aloud, watching Marcus's face crumble with each word. Social media comparison culture. That phrase hit different when I thought about Marcus's Instagram feed, constantly posting about how proud he was of his community college classes while screenshotting my university achievements to his story with passive-aggressive comments like, some people get all the luck. 3 other cases. Mom's voice was hollow. Marcus, you're not the only person who thought this was acceptable. I didn't know other people were doing it, Marcus whispered. I swear I didn't get the idea from anywhere. I couldn't stand watching everyone celebrate Sarah when I felt like such a failure. Jessica, who'd been quietly scrolling through her phone, looked up with a grim expression. Actually, there are TikTok videos about this. Graduation revenge pranks. Most of them are fake, but some people in the comments are sharing stories about actually doing stuff like this. You got the idea from TikTok. Grandma Papa's voice carried decades of disappointment. You destroyed your family from social media. No. I told you, I didn't. Marcus stopped mid-sentence, his face going red. I mean, I might have seen some videos, but I wasn't trying to copy them or anything. Uncle David set down his wine glass with a sharp clink. So you did see videos about sabotaging family members' achievements. They weren't serious. They were just jokes about sibling rivalry and Marcus realized he was digging himself deeper. Look, maybe I saw some stupid videos, but that's not why I did it. I did it because I was hurting. And you thought hurting Sarah would make you feel better. Dad's voice was getting that dangerous quiet tone I remembered from childhood. My phone rang. Mom's contact flashing on the screen, which was weird since she was sitting right across from me. Honey, that's not me calling you, she said, looking confused. I answered anyway. Hello. Sarah. It's your mom. I'm calling from the restaurant bathroom because I needed to say something privately. It was Mom's voice, but she was literally sitting at our table looking bewildered. Mom, you're right here. You're not in the bathroom. What? Sarah, I'm at Giuseppe's in the bathroom. I can hear your voice echoing from somewhere in the restaurant. The realization hit me like ice water. I looked at my phone screen. The call was coming from Mom's contact, but when I looked at her purse, her phone was sitting right there on the table next to her wine glass. Marcus, I said slowly, where's your phone? His face went white. In my car, I think. Mom, hang up the bathroom phone and come back to the table. What bathroom phone? I'm calling from my cell, the line went dead. Mom was staring at her purse, then at me. Sarah, my phone is right here. I haven't moved from this table. Then who was just calling me claiming to be you? The answer walked through Giuseppe's front door 30 seconds later. My mom, or someone who looked exactly like my mom, scanning the restaurant like she was looking for our table. What the hell, Jessica breathed. Because there were now two of my mother in Giuseppe's. One sitting at our table looking confused, and one standing by the hostess station in different clothes, checking her phone. Uncle David was gripping his wine glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Is that how it is there? The second mom spotted us and started walking over, smiling and waving. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible and I couldn't find parking anywhere. But my real mom was already here. Had been here the whole time. Marcus, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, what did you do? The woman approaching our table looked exactly like my mom, but as she got closer, the differences became obvious. This version was wearing a cream-colored blazer instead of the navy dress my real mom had chosen for graduation. Her hair was styled differently, looser curls instead of the neat updo mom had spent an hour perfecting this morning. I'm so sorry I missed the ceremony, the fake mom said brightly, reaching to hug Dad. My phone died and I got completely lost trying to find parking near the campus. Dad recoiled like she was on fire. Who the hell are you? Real mom stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Excuse me, but who are you supposed to be? The imposter's face went through a series of rapid expressions, confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like panic. There's been some mistake. I'm Linda Chin. This is my daughter Sarah's graduation dinner. I'm Linda Chin, my actual mother said, her voice rising. Other diners were starting to stare. And I don't know what kind of sick joke this is, but... Marcus, I said, my voice cutting through their confrontation, I'm going to ask you one more time. What did you do? My brother was hyperventilating, gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I didn't. I don't know who that is, Sarah, I swear. The fake mom was backing away from our table now, her eyes darting between the real mom and the exit. Jessica had her phone out and was definitely recording everything. Ma'am, Uncle David called to the imposter, I think you need to explain who you are and why you're pretending to be my sister-in-law. This is insane, the woman stammered. There must be some confusion. My son Marcus told me to meet the family here at 4:30 for Sarah's graduation celebration. Every head at our table whipped toward Marcus, who looked like he might pass out. Your son. Dad's voice was deadly quiet. I hired an actress, Marcus blurted out, the words tumbling over each other. From this website where you can hire people to pretend to be family members for events. I thought if Sarah saw how easy it was to replace people, she'd understand how it feels when someone you love just disappears from your life. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Emma had stopped coloring, her 6-year-old brain trying to process why there were two grandmas Linda. Grandma Papa spoke first, her voice so cold it could have frozen Giuseppe's entire wine cellar. You hired a stranger to impersonate your mother. At your sister's graduation dinner. It was supposed to be a lesson. Marcus was crying again, but these tears looked different, desperate, manic. Sarah's leaving for Portland without telling anyone, treating us like we're disposable, so I wanted her to see how it feels when family becomes replaceable. By traumatizing the entire family. Aunt Linda's voice was shrill. Marcus, what is wrong with you? The fake mom was trying to edge toward the exit, but Jessica had moved to block her path. Hold on, my roommate said firmly. You're not going anywhere until we figure out what the hell is happening here. Look, I'm just an actress, the woman protested. I got hired through FamilyStand-ins.com to play someone's mother at a graduation dinner. The kid said it was a surprise to make his sister realize how much family means to her. How much did he pay you? Dad demanded. $300 for 4 hours. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. Marcus, where did you get $300? His silence told me everything I needed to know. Marcus Chin, Mom's voice was shaking with rage, did you steal money to hire this woman? I borrowed it from your emergency fund, he whispered. I was going to put it back after my next paycheck from Target. You stole from our family to hire a fake version of our family to manipulate your sister on her graduation day. Uncle David was on his feet now, his voice carrying across the entire restaurant. The manager appeared at our table, looking stressed. Folks, I'm going to need you to keep it down or I'll have to ask you to leave. We'll leave, Dad said grimly, throwing his napkin on the table. After we call the police. No. Marcus lunged across the table, grabbing Dad's arm. Please don't call them. I'm already in trouble with Detective Rivera. If you add theft charges. You should have thought about that before you stole from us to fund your elaborate psychological manipulation scheme, Mom snapped. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Rivera, Miss Chin, I just received a very strange call from Giuseppe's restaurant about an incident involving your family and someone impersonating your mother. Can you explain what's happening? I showed the text to the table. The fake mom went pale. Someone called the police, she asked nervously. Look, I'm just doing a job here. I had no idea this was part of some family dispute. What exactly did the job posting say? Jessica asked, still recording. The woman pulled out her phone with shaking hands. It said, need maternal figure for family dinner. Must be able to improvise emotional support for young adult daughter leaving for new job. 4-hour commitment, payment up front, some family tension expected but nothing dangerous. Nothing dangerous, I repeated slowly. Marcus, you posted an ad asking a stranger to emotionally manipulate me at my own graduation dinner. I wanted you to see what it would be like if mom wasn't really mom, he said desperately. If family was just replaceable. Like how you're replacing all of us with Portland. The twisted logic was breathtaking. My brother had stolen money, hired an actress, filed false police reports, and orchestrated an elaborate psychological manipulation, all because I was considering a job opportunity one hadn't even officially accepted yet. Detective Rivera walked through Giuseppe's front door. Detective Rivera surveyed our chaotic table with the weary expression of someone who'd seen too much family drama in one day. His eyes moved from the real mom to the fake mom, then to Marcus, who was now openly sobbing into his hands. Miss Chen, he said, pulling out a notebook, I have to admit, in 15 years of police work, I've never had a case quite like this one. The fake mom immediately stepped forward, hands raised. Officer, I want to be completely clear that I had no idea this was connected to any criminal activity. I thought I was doing a legitimate acting job. Ma'am, I'll need to speak with you separately, Detective Rivera said. But first, I need to understand the scope of what we're dealing with here. He looked directly at Marcus. Son, I need you to tell me exactly how many laws you've broken today. Marcus's face went through several shades of pale. What do you mean? Well, let's start with what I know. Filing a false police report, that's 1. Theft from family members, that's 2. Fraud related to hiring this actress under false pretenses, potentially 3. Are there any other crimes you'd like to confess to while we're here? Uncle David leaned forward. Wait, fraud? How is hiring an actress fraud? Because he used stolen money to hire her, and he misrepresented the situation, Detective Rivera explained. According to the complaint I received 20 minutes ago, someone reported that a young man was using a service called FamilyStand-ins.com to impersonate family members for purposes of emotional manipulation. My blood ran cold. Who filed that complaint? Detective Rivera checked his notes. Anonymous tip. Came in through our online reporting system. Someone provided screenshots of text conversations between Marcus Chen and the actress, including discussions of payment and specific instructions on how to make his sister understand what abandonment feels like. Everyone at the table turned to stare at Marcus, whose face had gone completely white. I don't understand. Nobody else knew about the actress except. He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes going wide with realization. Except who, Marcus? Dad's voice was dangerous. Nobody, Marcus whispered, but his hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. He started scrolling frantically, his face growing more panicked by the second. Oh God. Oh no, no, no. What is it? Mom demanded. Marcus held up his phone with trembling hands. On the screen was his Instagram story from this morning, a screenshot of his text conversation with the actress, along with the caption, Some people think family is disposable, face with rolling eyes, time to teach my sister a lesson about loyalty. Stay tuned for the drama. Hashtag graduation revenge, hashtag sibling rivalry, hashtag family first. The post had 847 likes and 23 comments. Jessica grabbed the phone to read the comments aloud. Dude, this is genius. Can't wait to see how this plays out. Your sister sounds like a bitch anyway. OMG, tag me in the updates. Detective Rivera was writing furiously in his notebook. So you documented your criminal conspiracy on social media and invited people to follow along. It was supposed to be funny. Marcus protested. Like those prank videos. I didn't think anyone would actually call the police. Marcus, I said slowly, staring at his phone screen, that post has been shared 156 times. The implications hit me like a truck. Hundreds of people had seen Marcus's plan to sabotage my graduation. Hundreds of strangers now knew intimate details about our family drama, my job offer, and his elaborate revenge scheme. Oh my God, Mom breathed, grabbing the phone. Marcus, our address is in your bio. Your school information. Sarah's University. Detective Rivera looked grim. Miss Chen, I need to inform you that this situation has escalated beyond simple family misconduct. When criminal activity gets broadcast on social media like this, it can attract unwanted attention from people who might want to exploit the situation. What kind of people? Dad asked. Identity thieves, harassment groups, people who get entertainment from family conflicts. Your son essentially created a public spectacle out of serious criminal behavior and invited the internet to participate. My phone started buzzing with notifications. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, apparently Marcus's story had spread beyond his own account. Strangers were tagging me in comments, sending friend requests, posting on my university's social media pages. One notification made my stomach drop. Sarah Chen, someone has requested to follow your LinkedIn profile and send a message, saw your family drama on Instagram. Very unprofessional for someone about to enter the workforce. Forwarding to Morrison and Associates HR department. Morrison and Associates. My job offer in Portland. Marcus, I said, my voice barely controlled, someone just threatened to send screenshots of your posts to my potential employer. The color drained completely from his face. Sarah, I can delete the post. It's been shared 156 times. You can't delete what other people have already spread. Detective Rivera closed his notebook with a snap. Alright, here's what's going to happen. Marcus, you're coming to the station with me to give a full statement about today's activities. Ma'am, he nodded to the fake mom, you too. I need to document this entire situation before it gets any more out of hand. Am I under arrest? Marcus's voice cracked. Not yet. But son, you've committed multiple crimes, documented them publicly, and potentially damaged your sister's professional reputation. The district attorney is definitely going to want to prosecute this case as an example. As Detective Rivera escorted Marcus and the actress toward the exit, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Morrison and Associates. My heart stopped. Miss Chen. This is Patricia Williams from Morrison and Associates HR. I need to speak with you about some concerning social media content that's been brought to our attention regarding your family situation. The Morrison and Associates call lasted exactly 7 minutes and changed everything. Miss Chen, while we appreciate that family situations can be complicated, having your personal drama broadcast across social media platforms raises serious concerns about professional judgment, Patricia Williams said in that crisp HR tone I'd heard in countless rejection calls before. We've received multiple messages from concerned parties suggesting that someone involved in such theatrical family conflicts might not be the right cultural fit for our client-facing marketing team. When I hung up, the entire restaurant felt like it was spinning. 4 years of college, student loans that would take decades to pay off, and the perfect job opportunity, all destroyed because my brother couldn't handle me succeeding. Jessica grabbed my arm as I swayed in my chair. What did they say? The offer's withdrawn. Effective immediately. Due to character concerns raised by recent social media activity. Dad, who had been silent through the whole police interaction, finally exploded. That's it. Marcus is dead to me. Absolutely dead. David, don't say that, Mom started. No, Linda. He filed false police reports. He stole from us. He hired an actress to psychologically torment Sarah. He broadcast it all on social media for entertainment. And now he's cost her the job she worked 4 years to earn. That's not sibling rivalry, that's sociopathic. My phone buzzed again. Detective Rivera, Miss Chen, your brother just confessed to everything. Full cooperation. He's also agreed to pay restitution and remove all social media posts. The actress confirmed she had no knowledge of the criminal elements. DA still wants to prosecute, but Marcus's cooperation will help. What's your decision on pressing additional charges? I stared at the message for a long time. Around me, my family was arguing about consequences and forgiveness and whether Marcus needed therapy or jail time or both. But all I could think about was that phone call with Morrison and Associates, and how my brother's jealousy had just derailed everything I'd worked toward. Then Grandma Papa reached across the table and took my phone. What are you doing, Papa? Calling Detective Rivera back, she said with steel in her voice. Marcus made his choices. Now he lives with consequences. She dialed the number with surprising steadiness for her 86-year-old fingers. Detective Rivera. This is Papa, Sarah's grandmother. Sarah wants to press full charges against Marcus. Yes, full charges. That boy needs to learn that family does not destroy family. The table went silent. Mom started crying quietly. Dad nodded grimly. Uncle David reached for his wine glass with shaking hands. When Papa hung up, she looked directly at me. Precious girl, I survived the Cultural Revolution. I know what real hardship looks like. What Marcus did today. This was not hardship. This was cruelty. And cruel people must face justice, even when they share your blood. 3 hours later, Marcus was officially charged with filing a false police report, theft, and harassment. The social media evidence made the case airtight. His community college suspended him pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. But here's what Marcus didn't know when he was planning his elaborate revenge, had already been in contact with 3 other companies after receiving the Morrison offer. By the time we got home from Giuseppe's, I had emails from 2 firms in Seattle and 1 in Denver, all expressing interest. The Denver company, Rodriguez Marketing Group, actually called me that evening after seeing the news coverage. Miss Chen, anyone whose family goes to such extremes to sabotage them must be pretty remarkable. We'd like to discuss an opportunity, senior associate position, $72,000 starting salary. When I told Jessica about the Denver offer, she started laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Sarah, your psycho brother just accidentally got you a better job by being a criminal. Marcus pleaded guilty 6 months later and received 18 months probation, 200 hours community service, and a permanent criminal record. He also had to pay $3,847 in restitution, the $300 he stole, court costs, and compensation for my therapy sessions. I moved to Denver in August and love my job. Marcus and I haven't spoken since graduation day, and honestly, I sleep better at night knowing exactly who he really is. Some people aren't worth forgiving, even when they share your DNA.